So I can give you a tour of my home lab. This is more or less how it looks like. I have three mini PCs connected to external SSDs. It's actually a long story how it ended up like this, but I have three other nodes with internal M.2 NVMe drives, and I will eventually replace these with those nodes anyways. These mini PCs are connected to a network switch, and one of them is also connected physically to a hard drive enclosure. So after my Synology died, I moved all the drives to this enclosure, and this enclosure supports both JBOD and RAID configs. I'm still not very happy with it though. I mean, it gets the job done, but this mini PC runs Proxmox and is also running a virtual machine. And I prefer a dedicated node managing this task so I can put it aside and not disturb it with everything I do to the cluster of Proxmox machines. Proxmox has a very good integration with Ceph. You can create and manage a Ceph cluster with it, which is what I've done. And Ceph is especially interesting for me because, well, of course, it allows me to use all these SSDs that are attached to these mini PCs, but it also allows me to run virtual machines on these mini PCs very reliably. And what I mean by that is that, let's say I'm running something like this Home Assistant instance on Proxmox number 1, and then I decide to do some maintenance on this node. For example, I decide to upgrade the operating system. So what I can do, because the storage is sort of shared across all of these Proxmox instances, I can shut down this Home Assistant virtual machine and power it back on another one. Or better yet, I can create a snapshot of the RAM. And this is, by the way, done automatically and seamlessly by Proxmox. So it can create a snapshot of the RAM, store this on durable storage, restore that on another node, and then run it again, but on another machine, which is a game changer in terms of maintenance without major interruptions. And this whole process will probably take a few seconds. On top of these Proxmox instances, I'm running a few virtual machines. So I talked about a few of them, like this VM that's connected to the direct attached storage, and it's also connected to a cloud backup service for backing up my super important files that I can't afford to lose. I also run a few Docker engine VM instances on top of these Proxmox nodes, and I run a bunch of containers on them. But there are two interesting points. The first one is the MinIO virtual machine. And MinIO is an open source software that allows you to create an object storage similar to Amazon S3. But the way that I use it, apart from the main use case, is that I use it as storage or volumes for stateful Docker containers. Now, you can't really connect an S3 storage as a POSIX compliant volume to Docker images, but there's a software called JuiceFS that allows you to do that. So it connects to an S3 compatible storage to store the blocks, and then it stores the metadata in a Postgres database, or I think you can use something like Redis, a key value store, with it. But these make it very easy for me to have portable stateful containers that I can run on any of these machines. Having one thing to worry about for backing up the data that these containers need from a maintenance perspective is really nice. And of course, I need to make this a little bit more reliable, which I'm planning to do, but for now, I'm just trying to play around with these technologies to also learn. And if you want absolute reliability, this is probably not the best setup to have. Speaking of which, I'm also playing around with another open source project that I'm maintaining. That is called DQ-Lite VIP, which is a virtual IP manager based on DQ-Lite. This allows me to, for example, set up 3 redundant instances of critical services such as load balancers and whatnot on top of these Docker containers. And then instead of having clients pointing to the IP addresses of these Docker containers, I can have them point to the virtual IP address, which will be taken over by the leader automatically with my tool. That's how I also run some redundant containers in my home lab. This is pretty much all the important bits and pieces on my home lab for now.